So I'd like to spend a few minutes now talking about some ways that we can work with emotion as it comes up in our meditation practice. And some of these things I've already alluded to as we've been talking in our discussions. I just want to share with you some ideas and some points and some skills that we can use as we're working through different emotional experiences as they come up, whether we're expecting them or not. We have a real tendency to try and problem solve around emotion. We are a very hands-on, let's do something about it kind of society, I think, especially in Western society. We want to make things happen. We want to do something. And emotions really can't be problem solved. We try very hard to problem solve them. But emotions really call to be experienced first and to be felt first. And once we have an understanding of how that emotion feels and what it feels like, and we create space for us to experience it, then we are able to be in a space in a way that we can respond to our emotional experience instead of just react to it. Because sometimes when we skip the experiencing the emotion step and we go straight to trying to problem solve, we get caught in that reactivity. Those habitual patterns of reactivity that don't help us, that have actually probably caused us some trouble at different points in our life. And even though it's difficult and we resist, sometimes with all of our might, experiencing what the emotion feels like, it is the most skillful way to then get to the point where we can problem solve around that emotion, around the experience that's causing the emotion, that's evoking that emotion. So you can't reject or problem solve your emotion. You really have to experience it, allow yourself to process it as you feel it moving through your body and through your experience. Our emotions live in our body, not in our heads. And so for us to really allow ourselves to work through a difficult emotion, we have to feel it. And that's why I was really directing you in the meditation to find where that emotion sits in your body. Because when we think about different emotions, we can probably, if we sit there and ponder it for a bit, realize that there are different parts of our body that we hold different emotions. And it may be different for everybody. This is your opportunity to begin to explore that and figure out where you hold different emotions in your body. Because then you can use your body as information to help you understand what's going on in your experience and what you need to care for yourself in the most skillful way so that you can respond in a way that's going to be helpful to you and to those around you. When we don't allow ourselves to experience that emotion, we often, like I said, skip over the experiencing part and go straight into the story around the emotion. And that story or that narrative, without a full experience and expression of the emotion, often does not really reflect reality. And it can create more suffering for us, actually, instead of be helpful. So we think that we're doing something proactive to try to solve the situation or problem solve around it, but we might actually be making things worse. One example that I can think of is, say for example, you're at a party or a social gathering with friends and you have a really great time. You have a lot of fun with people. And then as you're leaving, you feel a twinge of sadness. And the sadness is really a response to feeling sad that a really great evening has ended, a time when you had a lot of fun. But it's difficult to feel, so you skip over it, and you get stuck in the story about it, like, oh, I feel terrible. Oh, I shouldn't feel terrible. I just had such a great time. Why do I feel so bad? I cannot relate to people. No matter what happens to me in my life, I can't feel good. I had this great time, and now I feel terrible. What is wrong with me? And so just by skipping over the experience of that emotion and allowing yourself to feel it, you get stuck in a narrative that makes you feel worse. When really, you were feeling sad because something you really enjoyed ended, and it was that simple. But because you want to resist feeling that way, you skip over it. And we do that a lot. We do that all the time, actually, where we just skip that feeling and get stuck in the narrative. So when we create that space of mindfulness, we give a space for those difficult emotions and emotions that we don't always want to face to be, to rise up and to exist and be. And then we can experience them with kindness and with care and gentleness to ourselves. Like I asked you during that meditation, just to put your hand on your heart, to show care to yourself. Because it's hard to experience these emotions. It can be very painful. But when you allow them to be, allow them to arise in a very caring and compassionate way, you can watch them soften and change and actually gain some insights that might be really meaningful and really helpful. I had an experience when I was on a mindfulness retreat. And in mindfulness retreats, you alternate between periods of sitting meditation and walking meditation. And I was really struggling with walking meditation. I would go out there and I would carefully feel my heel touching, and my foot touching, and my toe lifting, and try to focus on the sensations in my feet. And I just was struggling so much. And I was getting so frustrated. And so I was out there trying to so carefully, do this, and I couldn't get it. And I got so mad. I was really mad. And I was on a hill, trying to do this walking meditation on a hill. I just started stomping down the hill. I was just, I was so angry. And one of my teachers had said, when you feel an emotion, try to be with that emotion. Just stay with that emotion. So I'm like, I'm angry. I was just trying to stay with that emotion. And I noticed the feeling in my chest, constriction, the tension in my head, my jaw was clenched like this, as I was like, down the hill. And just stayed with that emotion and just felt it with every ounce of my being. And if anyone was watching me, it was probably pretty funny. But as I was doing this, I was just with the emotion, just letting it resonate in my body, just be really pissed. And I had this insight as I was doing this that I was really mad at my body. Because my body was not cooperating. And that I didn't really know how to get my body to cooperate because I was so disconnected from my body. And that this space of mindfulness, this mindful walking, was highlighting the disconnection between my head and my body, and it was really pissing me off. And I was able to see this insight just by staying with that anger and just being with that anger and just, not trying to problem solve it, just holding it, being it, and exuding it, and just feeling it in my body. And that led me to be a lot more compassionate with myself. Like this was new for me, to try to really feel the sensations in my body. It was not, I was a pretty cerebral person, I've lived up here for 40 some years of my life, and I needed to be patient. I wasn't going to master walking meditation, on one retreat. So I don't think I ever will master it. That's not the point. But to just develop some and allow for some compassion and patience with myself. For me, that was a really vivid experience of just allowing that emotion and just really settling into it and feeling it in my body. So when we pull ourselves out of that narrative of the mind, I could have got stuck in, I'm terrible, whatever. Pulling ourselves out of that to feel the emotion really opens up space for then gaining some insight, gaining some wisdom, and being able to gain wisdom and engage in compassion for ourselves as we experience our life as it unfolds. Because our life is full of emotions. It's part of being human. It's a wonderful part of being human. We have the ability to experience all these different things. And it really opens up ourselves to the full experience of being a human being. And being able to experience our humanness in its completeness, even when it's difficult, and learning how to hold the difficulties with wisdom and compassion for ourselves.